basically I get from you a successful life is one where I seek after what I'm best at. Right?
It may sound simplistic, but it's the dream, the struggle, the prize. The dream is the catalyst.
So what my dream is, that's what I have to go after.
Identifying one's dream, and everybody has the right to their own dream, and no one should judge anybody else based on whatever their dream is.
So you said that a successful life is one that cultivates your skills.
It's like treasure hunting. You're seeking to identify the hidden treasures that lie within you. So many people look all over for quote unquote the silver lining in the cloud or the gold out somewhere they're going to be mining. But the reality is the treasure is within each and every one of us. And so when somebody gets to that point where they realize their dream, they realize their purpose, and they can wed that together with a plan, they can wed it together with some coaching, somebody be their pilot, their coach, and then they develop that inner drive to be persistent in the pursuit of that purpose and that dream. That's when they find out who they are.
The fulfilled life, the fully realized life, is one where they realize what their gifts are and what their dream is, and they make steps to accomplish it. That is what you're saying, realizing.
Yes, as long as they take steps to accomplish it, because somebody could realize, hey, I have a natural affinity for the piano or an instrument, but they don't discipline themselves to be creative and practice to develop that hone that skill. So consequently, they never rise to the level of accomplishment they could. And the person that perhaps does not have as much innate skill as that person, but has the drive and the determination to sharpen their skill and to work diligently, could then surpass the person with more innate skill, but doesn't take dominion or responsibility over that skill or that talent or that gift to then utilize it, not only for their own benefit, but to give it back to the world.
How did your story begin? Where did you begin? What were your talents? What were your skills? What was your dream to begin with? What was your conception of life and your future?
Well, I think it ties into partially your DNA map. How are you born genetically? There's something within each and every one of us that is sort of impregnated into us, into our very fiber, but there's also social conditioning, and our family has a great influence on our social conditioning. In my case, my father, bless his heart, was an alcoholic. He was a weekend binge drinker. He was a responsible dentist, but he was irresponsible with the treatment of his own family and life with the use and excess of alcohol. My mother was born with a condition called bipolar manic depressive illness, and she had suffered from that for years and years and years with continual cycles of repeat depression, repeat mania. And that particular type of confusion and stress and anxiety for a young child, whether it be my sister or myself, can have in some ways detrimental effects, but in other ways molding effects that could make one actually look inward to then seek to become, perhaps in my case, it was the healer.
What was your greatest struggle in your family, in your first start? What was the greatest struggle in your family with the bipolar mom, the alcoholic dad, in your first start? What was the greatest struggle? What was the greatest struggle with your alcoholic mom, bipolar mom, and alcoholic dad to get your start?
I would say it's a dichotomy, because some people will be raised in that kind of an upbringing and become a victim. And because they become a victim, they're incapacitated, and it's a self-fulfilling prophecy based on their own inward thought process. In my case, it was, I want to do something substantial with my life. I don't want to end up in the day in, day out rut world that my father lived in as a dentist. Yet on the other hand, I thought that by being a doctor, I could make a difference in the lives of people. By being a healer, by being a practitioner, I could make a difference. Maybe becoming a psychiatrist, maybe learning how to treat manic depressive illness. But it ties also into the death of my brother. I had a brother that was a wonderful young man. He was 16 years of age, I was 9, and he was unexpectedly struck by lightning and killed instantly on a canoe trip when I was 9 years of age.
Your brother was killed on a canoe trip?
He was struck by lightning and killed instantly. So that
death, how did that affect you?
Well, that
When did it happen? How old were you?
9 years of age. It affected my mother and my father tremendously. My mother was never able to let go of the grief, never able to let go of the memory. And who's to know unless somebody's lost a child? But it was something that she took the love she had for my brother, and then she invested that love into me, but by becoming overprotective. I was the youngest in the family, and so she showered me with as much love as she knew how to do, but in an inadequate way because of her manic depressive bipolar illness. People with that illness do not know how to emotionally bond in a deep, loving way, nor does an alcoholic father know how to do that. So the loss of
Did
my
you
brother,
feel abandoned, estranged? How did you feel with your dad and your mom? Not well, your mother embraced you. Did your dad embrace you?
I would say my father was kind of a quiet, stoic man. But when he would drink, he would get loud and boisterous, and so that would be obviously an inhibitor to any emotional intimacy with your father or desire to have conversation. So I would say that I was somewhat distant from my father. I felt love towards my father. I felt a degree of security towards my father because he was an income earner and he always worked and always took care of business. But the fear of when the next binge was going to take place and when the instability was going to take place was it would make somebody walk on eggshells, so to speak. And never knowing when your mother was going to get ill again with manic depressive illness, it was totally unpredictable. And as far as the loss of my brother is concerned, he was such a great athlete and academician that when he passed, I felt like, I don't know if you call it spiritually or it was just a nuance in my own mind, as if the baton was passed to me and I was to take the mantle of leadership in my family from that point forward, which is a lot of responsibility for a young kid to feel.
At what age?
9.
At 9 years old, your dad was drinking during
Yeah.
this time. So you felt your older brother passed away and your dad was absent. You felt it was did you feel it was your responsibility to care for the family, to lead the family?
I felt it was my responsibility to go out and to achieve in life and to create a stable life for myself more than anything.
That's why you went into medical school, was to take after your father, to heal, sounds like it was to maybe heal some of the problems that other people experience.